Good morning, great Americans. It's another great American video on November 6th, 2025, not long after the 2025 election results. Um, Man, you know what? I've made a lot of videos, and uh, only once before, because I thought it was very good, only once before have I ever included a brief clip of someone else's videos edited into one of my videos. I'm not a I'm not a big video editor. I generally just like to turn on the camera, say what I got to say, and that's it. We're not big production here, so I don't do a lot of editing. This video here today is the second video where I'm going to edit in someone else's thing, and it's Megyn Kelly, and it's Megyn Kelly's reaction to the election results, Zohran Mamdani, New York, Virginia, and I'm telling you, the only reason I'm doing this is because she is spot on, and every Republican, every independent, and if there are any left, any Democrats who actually have a conscience and who put their country ahead of their party, all those people need to rewatch this Megyn Kelly episode, and I'll put a link to it in the description of this video. They need to watch this every day. Every day, you should wake up, pull your head out of your ass, okay, brush the fucking cobwebs off of your brain and watch this Megyn Kelly video every friggin' day and realize how you fucked up and you cannot afford, America cannot afford to fuck up like this anymore. One of my ongoing themes has been stay the course. I was talking about how some people supported Trump and they're getting all wobbly kneed, and I said Trump is saving America. Save the course, stay the course, stay the course with Trump. Part of that was to get out in every future election from now on and work just as hard for Republicans as you worked for Trump in 2024, so that Trump could have more to work with and he could do better. Totally did not happen in the last election. Republicans, to use Megyn Kelly's words, left their fat asses sitting on the couches. They let the most vile, sick, twisted people win in multiple elections across the country, and just let it happen. What the fuck? Now, listen, I'm under no illusions. Nobody listens to my videos, right? Nobody watches me. I'm lucky if I get like 50, 60 hits or something like that. But at least I hoped that my sentiment was known and shared by other people who are popular, like Megyn Kelly and all kinds of other people. Um, but it didn't happen. So anyway, please watch. This is only about 10 minutes long. You really need to watch it, and I'll return after 10 minutes. Thank you.
How are you feeling this morning? Like shit? Yeah, I can relate. Last night was a total and complete disaster. I realized these were blue states. I don't care. The margins are so large, and Republicans lost across the board, everywhere, in every race. There's really no good news. Literally, the only good news is how radical the Democrats are and how Mamdani will now be the poster child for every Republican to use against his opponent. I mean, they'll all have to explain where they stand on Mamdani as he wrecks New York. But the Republican Party needs to get its shit together ASAP. I'm really glad we spent the past couple of weeks, as Sean Davis of The Federalist put it, policing some young person's group chat, what a podcast host said, and what the head of a think tank over at Heritage had to say. I'm really glad that the Republicans devoted so much time to that. That was a great move. Terrific move. Way to stick together to really shine a light on what matters. The Republicans like to lose. They enjoy losing. They enjoy when they are embattled and in a losing position and complaining. They love it. They do it really well. Less good at winning, especially when Donald Trump is not there to get them over the line. The Republican Party is not strong. Donald Trump is strong. Republicans don't know how to win. They don't know who to run. They don't know what to do when daddy's not there to fly them across the finish line. And that's just been so obvious. Meanwhile, Trump is all over the Middle East while people's groceries bills are still high. They're still dealing with inflation. They're suffering. Like, that's it. Okay. We're focus on domestic policy and on making people's lives better. That's really all I have to say. Those are my top line thoughts. There's a lot to get into on why this happened and so on, but that's my top line takeaway. That and the matter of, an immigrant invasion that has now given us a radical Muslim running the greatest city in the world into the ground. That's where it's going to. He's not only going to be running it, he's going to run it into the ground. And God help New Yorkers. Thank God we got out. If I had a nickel for every time my husband and I have said that over the past few months, thank God we got out. Thank God. Our old apartment building, which you could not get into when we first bought there many years ago, more than 10 years ago, now has like 50%, almost 50% inventory. It's like unheard of. They're fleeing. And not for nothing, but that building had a lot of Orthodox Jewish people in it. I'm sure they're leaving for a number of reasons. One, it's an expensive building, and I'm sure they have money. Two, they're Orthodox Jews. Who wants to be an Orthodox Jew under Mamdani in New York? It's insane. And the Orthodox tend to be more conservative and tend to vote Republican anyway. This guy last night, the anger that he spewed, he dropped the mask immediately. Mamdani did. Immediately. He got up there and was all but rubbing his hands together, looking at his new power and what he's going to do to the city of New York. God bless them. I wish them all the luck. And I'm worried on a personal basis because we go to New York. Of course, if you live anywhere near New York City, you go for shows, you go for occasional dinners, your kids go. I shudder to think of what he's going to do to it. We didn't even talk. We spent so much time on the socialism and his radical Islamist ties. We didn't even really spend a lot of time on the fact that he's budgeting, he said, $65 million to trans anyone who wants it from in-state or out-of-state, minor or adult, on the taxpayer dime. He basically wants New York to be a sanctuary for trans children. Last night, his speech, he thanked every foreign nation known to man. Like the Senegalese, whatever, hot dog salesman, the Nepalese cab driver. That's who he sees as his constituency. Meanwhile, he's up there talking about how this is for the guys who've got the scars on their knuckles and the calluses on their hands. They voted against you, you cretin. They all voted against you. The working class can't stand you. They're not buying your bullshit because the working class never buys bullshit. They can't afford to. They actually have to struggle to put food on their tables and worry about their kids in school and going to a school that's safe and one that doesn't have 45 different languages coming from the teachers because of the mandatory immigration laws we have now. They cannot worry about bullshit. The working class did not vote for you. They know you're a liar. And as I've been saying, a wolf in sheep's clothing. So don't spare me your speech about how the people with the calluses on their hands. You're from some rich Ugandan family. You're not even a born American. You came over here. You have dual citizenship. Your mother said there's nothing American about you, proudly. Your dad thinks we need to be sure to make sure that we don't unfairly castigate suicide bombers. That's who you are. The working class knows you're a phony. The Democrat Party's A nightmare. That they're the ones who put New York in this position where we had to choose between a sex pest grandma killer and somebody who appears to love radical Islam and wants to communize New York. Okay, those are the choices. Sliwa, you never had any chance. And at a minimum, you fucked over New York by staying in the race long before you had any chance. He's pulled, 7.5%? The voting's not done, but it's going to be very, very tight. It's basically 1 million for Mamdani and 1 million to Cuomo, and Sliwa split. But Sliwa got 7% of the overall vote. If he'd gotten out, if he'd said, okay, I'll work with Cuomo, I'll endorse him, I want a place in his administration, it could have gone the other way. But he didn't. He didn't. And look, I understand he had no obligation to get out. He's a Republican on the ticket. But he had no chance, and everyone knew that. Everyone knew that, including Curtis. He didn't care about effing over his city. And his name is Mud there, man. Good luck to him. He used to be greeted like a hero. You see him on the subway, the guardian angels, they're there to protect you. Like a hero. No more. No more. Except with the Mamdani crew, who I don't think is exactly his constituency. I guess I do have more to say, and I'll say it over the next couple of hours, but I want to get through this intro and then to our first guest. In Virginia, it was a fucking nightmare too. All right, that's 3 F-bombs in the first 7 minutes. My apologies. Nightmare. Democrat Abigail Spanberger won. That was no surprise. Winsome Earl Sears was losing. She came on here, spewed a bunch of bullshit about her internal polls. Bull. She got crushed by about 15 points. It wasn't even close. And amazingly, as predicted by MK Media's own Mark Halperin, Spanberger's victory was so large, she easily got that absolute vile attorney general candidate, Jay Jones, over the hump. He won. Those texts came out about him wanting to kill Republicans for being Republicans and their children so that Republicans would have to suffer. A position on which he doubled and then tripled down in writing and by voice via a telephone call to a Republican, to somebody he knew would not share his views, who kept hanging up on him and trying to end the conversation. He kept doing, he means it. And the Virginia voters said, we're good. Yeah, he's fine by us. Sure. He defeated Jason Miyares, the Republican, by 6 points. I wouldn't stay in Virginia. I would not stay there. I've lived in Virginia. I would not stay there if I had children in Virginia, knowing that the top law enforcement official is fine if my children die because their mother is a Republican. That's how he actually feels. It wasn't a passing comment, a fly-by-night thought. He tripled down in writing and by telephone call to a Republican to make sure she understood. And the Virginia voters don't give a shit. They want to see us dead. They're represented by those absolute monsters out there celebrating Charlie Kirk's death. That they are with them. They may not actually don the t-shirt with the freedom and the fake blood. They may not be like Lucy Martinez in Chicago, actually doing the gun in her neck, celebratory, in front of the cameras. But they're on the same page. How else would they elect as their top law enforcement officer a guy who wants Republicans and their children dead? Maybe they said he didn't mean it. Based on what? Based on what? The fact that when he got caught, it became a national controversy. He came out and said, oh, I'm sorry. Bull. You pretended to believe the apology because you vote blue and you don't really care what happens the other side of the aisle. Some portion of Virginians did reject him. His margin of victory, Jay Jones's over Miyares, was not as big. It was, she won by 15 at the top of the ticket. Spanberger, he won by 6. So there were some people of principle, some Democrats of principle in Virginia. To you, I tip my hat. Thank you for reminding us there is decency still in America. And to the rest of you, I don't understand you and I can't relate to you and I have no desire to win you over. You're not winnable. I only have a desire to defeat you. That's it. And we have to figure out how to do that. Republicans, get off your fucking couches. All right, that's 4 in 10 minutes. I'm sorry. But get your fat ass off of the couches and get out there. Work on candidate quality.
Well, there it is, folks. She is dead on. She dropped about 4 or 5 F-bombs. She told the Republicans to get their fat asses off the couch. And she's right. And she's right. And how can... Well, I'm just, I'm at I'm at a loss for words. I just don't understand how people could elect. I've never been to New York. I'm not a New Yorker. I don't know any New Yorker. But New York has always, in the past, has always had this reputation of, the rough New Yorker and even though they're sort of rough and they, a little rough around the edges and hey, I'm walking here, that kind of, at least deep down inside, they were Americans, Statue of Liberty, you know, uh, Empire State Building, all that nifty stuff. But if you can elect someone who's not even a citizen, or he's just a dual citizen, he doesn't even care enough about being an American to be an American. He's hanging on to his Uganda citizenship, never worked a day in his life, but wants to talk about workers. Basically, his talk about workers is all about it's the Marxist, Leninist, communist, blah, blah, blah about workers. It's not, he's not talking about workers from any uh, uh, personal experience. No, he's giving you the communist line about workers. His mom said he's not an American and he'll never be an American up here in his head. And she's right. Um, and Megyn was right, and Van Jones accidentally was right on CNN the other night that when this guy got up and gave his victory speech, uh, the mask fell off. Mr. Nice Guy fell off, and the angry communist, extremist, Muslim, anti-Semite, low-life pig came out. And that's what you dumb shits in New York elected. So, yep, this this is the last wake up call for Republicans. Okay, the Civil War is on. Okay, when Trump got elected in 2024, in terms of the Civil War, I like to call that D-Day. Right? In World War II, D-Day was the day that the Allies landed in Europe, and one could say that that was the beginning of the end of the war. That's when shit changed, right? The day before, Adolf Hitler, he occupied all of Western Europe and all that stuff. D-Day landed, the war was on. That's when Hitler started getting beat back into his bunker and finally dead. I think I liken the election of Trump in 2024 as D-Days. This is when we finally turn the tables and start beating back the radical extremists in the Democrat Party. So think about D-Day. Can you imagine if soldiers landed on the beach on D-Day, right? Take the beach, right? And then instead of continuing to fight the Germans, can you imagine if they just kind of laid back and said, I've had enough. I'm done. Hitler would have just took the land back. Hitler would have took the beach back, and he would still have Europe. No, D-Day was just the beginning. Then comes the fighting and the bleeding and the dying and the hardship and the sacrifice. And then came victory. It's the same thing for Republicans and conservatives and other people who love America. Trump's victory in 2024 was just the beginning. Now comes the war. And victory or failure is not an option. Victory must be achieved, or else there is no more United States of America. And this election was a failure. This election was a failure. This election, I might, if I'm going to stick with my World War II analogy, this election could be likened to the first part of the Battle of the Bulge, right? So if you know anything about World War II, we landed in France. That was D-Day. Now we're pushing through France. Hitler regrouped. He gathered up as many troops as he could, and he did one final assault. It was known as the Battle of the Bulge because it created this. So there was a line, the battle line here, and it created this gigantic, this kind of a gigantic bulge in the line, right? They pushed through. It looked like that, and so they call it the Battle of the Bulge because that's what it looked like on a map. It looked like a big bulge where Hitler pushed back against the Americans. It was a brutal counterattack. That's what last night was. Last night was a brutal counterattack, and for now, a victory for the left. Okay, I say that is the final warning for Republicans in the GOP. Now you must regroup. You must fight like there's no fighting. And I'm talking about, I'm not talking about violence. I'm talking about fighting at the polls, fighting for elections, as Megyn Kelly said, picking good candidates, getting out there and not getting distracted by the bullshit. She's right. Republicans have been getting distracted by all kinds of bullshit and infighting and not keeping their eye on the ball. Well, there you go. I hope you learned your lesson. Every Republican from now on needs to do more than just vote. You need to get out and you need to, I don't care where you are, I don't care what race it is, every race is important, whether it's local, state, uh, look, Mamdani, as big as New York is, that's still a local election. It is a mayor. It's a mayoral election. Every Republican, regardless of whether it's local, state, or federal, needs to get out and do everything you can for every candidate you can. Voting is just not enough. You got to donate if you have them, if you can donate, or if you can't donate money, donate your time. Get out and help, volunteer, do whatever it takes, get friends. It has to be done. Otherwise, it's through. It's the end of the republic. That's just a fact. Stay the course. Stay the course. So I'm going to put a link to the full video of Megyn Kelly. I'm going to put a couple links. And also a link to my Stay the Course article. And that's it. Please share this video, and I will see you in the next great American video. Adios.